Tales from the Spacepod is intended for mature, open-minded audiences only. If you are easily offended, I suggest you turn this wacky shit right off. Otherwise, welcome to the pod.
Hello, sir.
What are the odds that John Mark unboxes a Spacepod-related sex toy?
Oh, my God. Well, we have to take into account that, for a while there, that was John Mark's profession. He worked for a sex toy store.
But in the stories that he has shared with us, he was not fond of that particular phase in his life. Didn't enjoy the adult.
Everything's coming full circle, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, everything comes full circle indeed. Let me get them on board, and we will see what John Mark is so excited to live unbox. Ooh. He must be getting a box cutter. So for those of you who don't know, we haven't talked about it at all. John Mark has been teasing something for a while, and then today he said, I might have something to share on the Spacepod, and then right before we got on the show, he just sent us a picture of a package. Not his package. John Mark, are you with us?
I'm here.
I'm just dying to get into this. Why don't we get right into it? What do you have to live unbox for us, and does it vibrate?
Let's do it right now. Okay. Let's see. I'll send you guys.
Oops, wrong photo.
Here.
Looks like a good sized package.
So I'm gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna actually start opening it.
Oh, you haven't even started to open it yet. This really is a live unboxing. What if it's a fucking bomb?
Yeah.
We would all hear you die. But and the surprise that...
That would be our second most downloaded podcast ever.
What would number one be?
What's the one with the crazy guy? I don't know.
The crazy guy,
Cooper?
Sid? Let's see. Okay, okay, the knife is at the box, ladies and gentlemen. The knife is at the box. Quite literally what John Mark said. I can't wait to see what the next one...
Right.
Ooh, is it being opened? Do you know what's inside the box?
I do.
Okay. You should be live Facebooking this so we can all watch the video of it. And just confuse all your friends.
There's a reason I'm not doing it live on Facebook.
It is a sex toy, Ron. Jesus.
It is going to
the size of those condoms.
Ooh, that does look like a condom. Oh, shit. Are those what I think they are?
I don't think they is.
Interesting.
Is it like Nostradamus or something?
Now,
It is happening.
Now, did Lyle not just mention something about wanting
Yes.
a particular type of product like this? But we don't know yet. Let's let the condoms come off
Right?
the mug or whatever is under there.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
I have to kind of take it easy because I don't want to get too excited here and
I gotta
Right.
zoom
have
in.
something bad happen.
Oh, shit. I think I know what's happening here.
I like this.
Can I announce these as they're coming to us, or do we want to wait for all of them to get here?
Yeah, you can.
I see a cup. It's well wrapped, but
Mug,
clearly
mug.
through there. A mug.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Oh.
And I see aliens. And I see Ron with the tails on the Spacepod, lovingly.
Did you paint these yourself?
I had them custom made.
These are charming.
This is adorable. Wow, look how great the Spacepod logo looks there.
Yeah.
Everything was hand done.
This is by Lexi, right?
Yep.
I saw her doing something. She's doing pottery now.
Yep.
And she was doing some really kooky, alien-y UFO shit. Look at that fucking Bigfoot. They're all based on my my retard drawings from our old logo, and it's fucking hilarious. Look at the Bigfoot. Oh my God, I love that. Have you guys met Lexi?
I don't know.
You would adore her. She's good
Already
people.
do. Let mine please be the toilet. Let mine please be the toilet.
Okay, so mine is the aliens. Lyle is the cryptids. It really would be fitting if Chris is. I'm trying to think what the other one is. Oh, ghosts, peeping ghosts.
Oh, that'd be even better.
That would be pretty sweet.
Give it to me either way. He's like, I don't have one for you, sorry.
Does that part of John Mark's blanket look like a butt crack up there?
That's actually John Mark's butt crack.
Sorry, guys. Didn't realize I was having the wide scope. That is super rad. I cannot wait to drink something from that.
awesome.
So now I just got to get these to you guys.
Oh, Chris did get the ghost. Look at that. That's kind of fitting for you, Chris, because I based those ghosts off of the Pac-Man ghosts.
Ha, nice. Hey, is there one for you, John Mark? Or did well, let's see that one. It's like best of them all.
It's got to be
Yeah, right.
The man that runs the show.
well, it's got to be
The
either
wizard.
the toilets.
Oh, you got the toilet.
Oh, he did get the toilet.
That's dope.
These are fucking magical. We have to
see
get a
the
portrait of all of us sipping something from these fucking mugs. We have to.
Totally.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Are they,
Sip me.
do you think they're dishwasher? Are they like killed? And,
They are, but I would probably hand wash it for sure.
Yeah.
I love that Lyle got straight down to the nitty gritty. How am I going to take care of my baby?
Right? How am I
Just
gonna
to laugh.
I gotta admit, when I saw mine, I was like, I can't possibly use it. That's going in like my china hutch. That's going in the place where I put precious things that I never want to break because I break shit. I break shit constantly, especially dishes. I don't know that I'll ever be able to use it.
So
it's too precious.
I'll take another picture of them like all together. and
Yeah,
stuff.
get a family portrait. That will be our new Facebook Tales from the Spacepod cover picture for sure. I mean, that sums us up. They're so much more charming than my versions of them. Like we kind of talked about this a little bit with Skinner. There's that over rendering, and then there's that sort of primal, archaic art form. And once you develop one way, you can't really go back to the other. And this reminds me of a lot of the stuff that I used to see on like punk rock album covers of the late 80s, right?
Totally.
That style. Thank you so much, Lexi. This is amazing. I don't know what had to transpire to get these here, but I'm imagining a lot. Is she still over in Europe, or is she back in Alaska?
She is in Alaska.
Well, still too far away. We got to get her down and hang out with us. You guys will all love Lexi. She's great. And I think she's been listening to the podcast for pretty much ever, right?
Pretty much since day one, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, seriously.
We'll post these pictures on the Facebook page. They'll be the cover on the Facebook page very soon. Super cool shit.
The rest of you listeners not delivering on the gifts, you might want to step up your game.
Well, tune in next week where
For exciting unveiling of gifts that you guys send us. That sounds like a much funner podcast. Anyway, let's get moving on because we've got a lot to cover. I am going to be sharing. I'm very excited about this. Jen O and I were hanging out 3 or 4 days ago, last week anyway, and we went antique shopping, and somewhere along the line we spotted an antique toilet or something that brought up the conversation of antiquated toiletries. And it occurred to us that would make an excellent podcast topic, like the true and complete history of the toilet. I mean, is there anything... We've basically been training for this, boys. We have been training for the history of toilets, so it's fitting that one of those cups has the toilet on it.
you could call it precious porcelain. Yeah.
Precious porcelain, that we could. So we will get to that soon enough, but since I've got quite a bit to cover, I'm not going to do any news. So let's get to any news or any bullshit you guys want to throw out, and we'll see where it goes.
I had a couple of stories, but I only want to talk about one fucking thing right now, and that's this goddamn R. Kelly story that broke today. Did you guys see this?
I did not.
Oh, man.
That's fitting for a urine-related story, though.
I love me a little R. Kelly drama for some reason. I don't know hardly anything about dude's music other than radio hits I've heard.
Yeah.
But, I know that he may or may not like to piss on people. And,
He may or may not. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So here's the headline. I'm just going to read the headline and the bullet points behind it. All right. I had to take a toke there because this is going to get deep. All right. New allegations claim R. Kelly keeps at least 6 women, including one he met when she was just 17, in a sex-obsessed cult where R&B star bans them from contacting the outside world. Now, I've seen this 3 places at this point. Now, he hasn't been charged with anything. It's not been verified by authorities, apparently, but things have come out from various sources saying that this may be the real deal. It's pretty fucking weird. The bullet points here. Shocking. New claims against R. Kelly were made in a report published Monday. 3 ex-members of R. Kelly's entourage spoke about the cult-like environment. They said at least 6 women were kept under his control in guest houses, properties rented by Kelly in Chicago and Atlanta throughout the summer. One said Kelly tells them when they can eat, shower, sleep, and bathe, while also telling them to engage in sex encounters that he records and then shows to his friends.
Well, is it all consenting? I mean,
yeah, but let's also take a step back and realize that one of them was 17 when she started this.
But that girl can give him love like he's never seen. Well, that's what we know about 17.
Well, like Charlie Sheen had his angels or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that was not Charlie Sheen. That was his kisser.
Yeah, what's his name? The other
Charlie Sheen did it too.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Oh,
he did have a. But this, he's keeping women segregated at homes, telling them they can't contact the outside world.
Yeah, that's a little different.
It's very important though for Lyle's question because, 17 is legal in some places. It's confusing though.
Yeah,
I don't.
It just it's sensational and wrong. That's the only way I can look at this.
But the 17 thing is at least iffy. The being kept. As long as they are free to leave. Listen, I have. There is something.
R. Kelly hiring over there? What's up?
I believe I can fly down to L.A. and be part of your... Well, there's this thing that I have discovered in my past year of extensive dating, shall we say, and it is really fucking common. And it is this... A lot of women that I have hooked up with... How to word this? I gotta be careful.
Cut that out.
I have found it to be very common, shall we say, for women to have a fantasy of being held captive. I would even say rape fantasies to some degree. And it's not just being submissive. It's not just being dominated. It goes fucking dark and deep quickly. And it seems to be...
Literally.
This is dark and deep. And I got deep quickly. I'm making bad choices. There's some meta shit in there. So I have to... a year ago I might have thought of this story differently, but okay, fuck it. I'll just say there are at least 3 girls that I dated in the past year that straight up wanted me to lock them in a kennel overnight, wake up the next day, go to work, not come back until I'm done work, and let them out. Like, they begged me to do that. 3
women wanted this exact sexual fantasy?
3 separate women wanted this exact thing. Now, 2 of them knew each other.
I didn't even know kennel porn was a thing. I got to get back on Pornhub, guys. I've been missing it.
I've known a lot of girls that have said that they've fantasized about being kept in a kennel. But this is the first time I ever had someone ask me. I know I got kennels. I have kennels that lock around here, so maybe that's the first time they had the opportunity. It's like, can I get in there and stay in there, and you lock me in there, and you go away for a day and then come back? Again, I was making choices that might not have been the best call, but I'm single and I was fucking playing around.
Are you free to say you actually did these things? You didn't just entertain the idea?
I locked a girl up.
Oh my god!
I R. Kelly'd a girl. I didn't pee on her, but well, listen. I'm like, after you ask somebody 5 times, "Are you sure?" and they're still like, "Put me in the fucking kennel and lock it, you fucking pussy."
Well, I was going to ask, what do you think that stems from? Like the 50 Shades of Grey bullshit that it was so popularized in the last few years.
Maybe, but this goes deep, man. There's something I don't know, but it's so common. I wouldn't doubt it. We're so influenced by pop culture, Lyle, that you might be onto something there. I don't know. All I know is I would never have bet money that there were this many people out there, and I'm not going to weird places to pick up weirdo girls. These are women from all ages and walks of life. You don't know what you have until you go out and you get home alone and you just kind of start finding what you got. Sure. And there was a lot of that. Way more than the majority of the people that I was dating last year were like that.
Well, that's weird, you know. I mean, for weird as I've seen like a girl that was like Christopher Walken. I've seen a girl, and she liked to be fucking smacked around,
Yeah.
and choked out.
There's a lot of that too.
Well, it's not me, you know, and I didn't do it, and I didn't do her because of it. Because it's like, I'm not going to do that to you, you know. It's just,
Yeah, you got to be into it, or at least you got to be good at pretending to be into it. Otherwise, yeah, don't bother. But
I mean, this was a chick that was, I mean, drop dead gorgeous, and you'd think like, well, why the fuck would you really want to get beat, you know? And
I'm telling you, it's not like you can watch. In my experience, now this may not be fair, but in my experience, the girls that are sort of like overly sexualizing what they wear, and they dress sort of like S&M style, and they're going crazy over top with the fishnets and with the garters, and they're like, ooh, I'm a fucking miss. You know, they sort of like proudly display that. Those girls, when you get right down to it, in my experience, have not been terribly interesting. It's the ones that look like school marms, and you get them fucking home. Those motherfuckers, and it's everything in between. It's just, there's no type for this behavior. That's why it was such a learning experience for me, and it's like, is society creating this? What is creating this? Is it just a thing? And then I'm so, you know, I've been perpetually coupled for the last 2 decades. So I'm single for the first time since the 90s. So maybe I'm just out of touch, and this is a common thing. Maybe it's always been this way, and I'm just more bold about dating than I was back when I was an awkward 21-year-old. I don't know. Have you guys found this to be a thing that's fairly common?
Yeah, I've definitely found that to be pretty accurate. Not put me in a kennel, leave me there all day.
No, that was extreme.
But most of the women that I've dated that where things get a little physical, they really enjoyed that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very, very common. I'm finding it to be the majority of the girls that I date. And, you know, it's variable, because some of them just like you to tug the hair and maybe like choke them a little bit, and some of them want you to fucking damn near put them in the hospital.
Yeah. Here's the deal. I mean, maybe, and I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. What you know, like our generation, you know, we were kind of brought up to be, you know, men, and you know, a lot of the boys and, you know, men in their 20s and stuff, they're not very masculine. So, because I've heard this from a lot, that is a lot of girls in their 20s and 30s, they want guys in their 40s and 50s, just because they're more manly. It's weird. Well, I mean, because if you think about it, in the 80s and the 90s, it wasn't that way. You know, it wasn't that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And again, it's hard to say. I mean, the masculinity thing, it's a thing that feels like it might be a thing, but I don't know. I remember hearing my parents' generation talking about us like we were a bunch of femmy kids that didn't know how to fucking change a tire. And I know that their parents were saying, get a haircut, you hippie. What are you, some sort of queer? So I don't know. Maybe it's just this thing. It's like a generational thing where you just have to point out. But boy, it does seem like, but society changes so much. You know, it's like, let's take the classic tropes for what used to be considered to be a quote-unquote man. You used to have to know how to work on cars, or you need to be handy around the house, you need to be a bit of a tough guy, and at least pretend to be fearless. You weren't able to cry. I mean, if we're going back far enough, this is what the stereotypical man was supposed to be. Now, did men actually start changing, or did society start changing where we could just actually be the pussies that we've always been? You know what I mean? Like, have we just been putting on an act this whole time? Because I would absolutely buy that.
Bravo. Yeah, that's funny. I never thought of it like that.
It's like homosexuality. You know, we hear this talk from older I hear talk from older generations and more conservative people sometimes, like, what's happened in society that gays are more prevalent? Like, how are we making more gays? Is it that we're making more gays, or is it that society has made it more acceptable for these people to come out than they were, in the 50s and 60s? I mean, good Lord, doesn't that thing kind of cell itself. That's not to say that there's not something happening in the DNA and in evolution. Who knows what's going on in our fucking chromosomal evolution? So changes could be happening, but the societal aspects of things like this is sort of hard to ignore, you know. It's interesting, though. It's interesting that it changes. And I think everything's cyclical, and you see it in politics, where you can only go so far right before you start kind of getting left, and vice versa, and everybody changes. It's like liberalism now is so not what liberalism was when I was becoming aware of politics, you know, back in the early to mid-'90s. Very, very different stances on the government and on taxation. It's really interesting how it's always churning. I feel it's kind of that way for everything, but who knows why, huh?
You know, that's been changing like in the last decade of like if you were in a relationship with somebody and you ended up getting divorced and had a kid, there was like a 90% chance the woman would get the child.
Yeah.
Into the divorce, and you're starting to see more and more men actually getting, you know, custody of their kids because they're more suited to raise them.
Yeah, I think we just start seeing the trope sort of fall away, you know, the knee jerks.
And it's the same thing that follows, like with like even in relationships and marriages, where, you know, sometimes like in a majority, a lot of the men are at home, you know, being Mr. Mom, while their wives are out making more money. You know, it's a weird.
Yeah, I know way more men that are staying home with the kids than I do vice versa.
Yeah, and that's kind of came a long way in probably like the last 20 years or so. I mean, it wasn't uncommon, but it's just becoming more common, I think.
Yeah. Well, it was so uncommon in the 80s that they made a movie about it called Mr. Mom. That movie wouldn't work now because, like, fucking like all the dudes stay home. Like, you know, guys are more, I don't know, that's a generational thing, too. It seems like more of my male friends are way more involved with their kids than my dad and all the dads that I grew up around. Like, dads were just kind of aloof and there to be strict and yell at you or just be gone for like a week, in my experience. And, and it was just like, I feel like, who knows, maybe this is all more cultural than societal, but anyway, what got us down this path, Chris? What were you?
Our fucking Kelly, bitch.
Our Kelly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Aside from the 17 years old thing, it's tough for me to judge because, man, there's some kinks out there. And just imagine, put yourself in my position. Okay, so this girl that comes over and she's funny and she's fun and she's interesting. You know, I'm not looking for a wife right now. So I've been having fun. I'm just, you know, very surface level for the most part relationships, especially last year. So we're like fooling around, and then this thing comes up. It's like, I want to do this, and I'm like, fuck it, I've never done anything like this. I'm gonna lock this bitch up. I lock her up. Let's say that I go to work, I come home, and she's dead or something.
Dude,
how?
Yeah, how do you explain that?
How do you?
There's a screenplay right there.
Yeah, you need to get
that's a Coen's brother movie right there. And what do you? So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt now that I know so much more about what's happening, and this is a pretty tame area with fairly run of the mill people, I would say.
It's like a retirement.
Can you imagine what's going on in fucking L.A. or New York? And the motives that go on behind that.
I don't know. I have a feeling that there's more fucking strange weirdness in places like Wenatchee than there actually is in a big city. You know,
as soon as I heard those
that.
words coming out of my mouth, I was like, man, this isn't really geographical.
Right.
At the same time, when you go to a bigger city, there's shit going on there that you know is just deeper and heavier in all aspects.
Sure,
you know what I mean? So
sure, but I feel like that's sort of thing in larger cities. It's just sort of like de rigueur, right? It's kind of par for the course.
Yeah,
whereas in smaller communities like that, it's like people go out of their way to kind of keep it secret, so it probably gets even darker and deeper. You know what I'm saying?
It's probably accurate, yeah. Anyway, well, we'll see. I guess as long as they're not being held against their will, what's going on? You know, it's like we're all God's children and free to choose. But the 17, yeah, you may want to look into that in the state of California, wherever the fuck he is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, if it was consensual, I don't really see a big deal with it. I mean, hey, could you imagine okay, Olivia Munn, dude, she's single right now, and she goes up to you and say, "Listen, I think I like you, but I want to keep you in a fucking room, and you can't leave. I don't want you, going anywhere, but I'll come and see you every once a month."
I don't know. Here's my feeling on that. It's different. It's different because these are young, impressionable girls that are going to his concerts, and he's picking them out of the crowd and brainwashing them. That's different. That these, they're looking up to some superstar, and now he's telling them that they can't see their friends or family, and if they want to, live in this lavish apartment, they have to abide by his rules. That's not their sexual fantasy. That's his.
It's not my way. But here's a caveat that I would throw into that as well. It reminds me to some degree of the groupies, like the famous groupies of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. So many of them have written exposés and autobiographies about that time, and they almost all of them claim that no matter what fucked up situation they got into, no matter how embarrassing it was or how depraved it was, they admit that every time they went along with it and they were there for the ride and they don't regret it. Of course, this isn't across the board, but I think what's Pamela
DeBar?
Is it DeBar, the famous groupie? And, it's sort of like a very feminist outlook in an odd way. It's like, people want to feel bad for me like I was in some sort of compromised position, and poor little old girl couldn't handle herself in these, against all these tough rock stars. But a lot of them, like Pamela, claim to have basically took the power back, and I was having a fucking blast. I was fucking rock stars, and I was, eating caviar and snorting coke off of Jim Morrison's ball sack, and it's like, don't cry for me, in other words. So again, I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, it's true.
If this is truly something that's like a cult, then you probably are going to get all the things like a cult, where you do pick out the weak-minded, the young, and you can spot the lost children. If you are looking for them, you can spot them a mile away, and that's what cult leaders do. That's how they build up their
Fuck, Ron, I just had a brilliant, I'm a little bit baked, obviously, but I just had a brilliant idea. You should do a fucking documentary where you start a fucking cult, because you're charismatic enough where I think you could get away. Do it under the guise of, look how easy it is to fucking do this. I bet that would make for some interesting documentary.
I think the problem... I appreciate you thinking that I could start a cult. That's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said. I think the problem with me starting a cult is people wouldn't take me seriously when shit hits the fan. Because you got to have that thing where... Okay, now you're all going to sleep with me, or I'll kill your family. It's like if I don't have any sauce behind me, you know what I'm saying? If I could maybe start a cult that would be like, you guys want to try some shit? And I got a kooky house, and hey, I got all the Mystery Science Theater episodes on VHS.
Kennel fits 3.
Yeah, as long as I kick my dogs out. So yeah, I don't know,
dogs, but I mean other women that were here before you.
Yeah, that's fucking funny. I would watch that documentary though. That does sound fascinating. Anyone else got anything before we get on to my history of the toilet? Oh shit, are we really at 30 minutes already? Crime.
I found a fascinating little story about dinosaurs that I'd like to bring up just because I thought it was cool.
Let's do it.
T-Rexes, you figure, they're huge. You watch them in Jurassic Park. How fast do you think they actually go?
A T-Rex? Boy, they make you think at least 30 miles per. I'm thinking of all the scenes in Jurassic Park. They're in a Jeep. Yeah. They're windy roads. It's not like they're out on the highway. So maybe 30 miles per.
Yeah. And they're a big animal for the most part. I mean, you figure their leg span alone would carry them faster than, anything. I think they were predicted, obviously in movies, they're about 45 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
There's German scientists that actually figured out that they really weren't that fast, and they could run. They were capable of running approximately about 16 miles an hour.
That's like human speed.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the fastest?
It's one of the fastest runners, I guess, speed runners is 11 miles slower than the legendary Olympian, somewhat.
Usain Bolt, he's the fastest man, right?
Yeah, he was
Fastest man alive.
the fastest man on Earth.
He can run 11 miles per hour faster than T-Rex?
No, I think he runs 27 miles an hour. He's 11.
See ya, T-Rex.
Yeah, he's 11 miles slower than 16 miles an hour. So
You want to get that joke out again, Chris?
Wait.
You know, every time we learn something more about the dinosaurs, they really just were a bunch of giant retard birds, right? I mean, are we just losing our ability to love the dinosaurs? Because at one point, they were these giant, massive, ferocious lizards that could outrun a bullet train. And now they're befeathered. I mean, 16 miles per, that's moving.
Well,
But
you're cooking. Sure.
But we sometimes back our cars up to turn around faster than that, so it's less frightening. I wonder what the fastest dinosaur actually was.
Well, they said
Like
the
the Velociraptor?
Velociraptor. On the other hand, it would catch you because it runs about 34 miles an hour.
Fucking A.
Yeah, see, that's still pretty fast. That is fast.
Yeah.
Speaking of fast creatures, we've been having a lot of cougar sightings in my neck of the woods out in East Wenatchee. Not right in my neighborhood, but
Crawling
closer
out
to
of
town,
kennels.
actually. Not the kind of cougars that I'm looking for.
The cul-de-sac, it's pretty close to... Wow, it's closer to me than you.
Yeah, it is. It's closer to town. Crazy. John Mart, you got anything before we get moving on?
Nope.
Well, let's get on to the history, the complete and exhaustive. Well, maybe not complete or exhaustive, but fairly thorough history of the toilet, because this is something that, we all use. Pooping really does bind us together as a species. This will cover not just the invention of the toilet as we know it, but, early sewer systems, short-lived inventions, and how different cultures handle popping a squat differently. But I promise you will have a more of an appreciation of your toilet by the time that we get done with this illumination. So let's go back to the beginning, and it's funny how we've basically been shitting and pissing since we were monkeys in caves, yeah? And yet animals seem to be smarter about how they go about their biz than early man, or even later man, as you soon learn, were. And the earliest thing I could find, the earliest mentions of toilets, or going to the bathroom at all, come straight out of the Bible. Deuteronomy, no less. Now, this is real. This is real, folks. Give a listen.
At least it's not Turteronomy.
Word. And speaking of word, here's the good word. This is the word of God, by the way. This is the voice of God. You shall have a designated area. This is God telling you how to shit, son. It doesn't get better than this. You shall have a designated area outside the camp to which you shall go. As part of your equipment, have something to dig with, and when you relieve yourself, dig a hole and cover up your excrement. For the Lord your God moves about in your camp to protect you and to deliver your enemies to you. Your camp must be holy, so that he will not see among you anything indecent and turn away from you. God don't want to step in your shit, son. That's out of the Bible. So aside from sanitary and health issues, we have divine reasons to stay tidy when it comes to dropping an old deuce. It's fucking hilarious. So over 2,000 years ago, early civilizations started to realize that shitting and pissing in the ground and burying it was likely not necessarily the most effective way to go. I mean, in a larger city, you would quickly run out of land. So great minds started to brainstorm about how to make life better in terms of human waste. Now, the Romans were by far ahead of the game on this. You basically had three problems. You have smell, disposal, and hygiene. And after some time, they figured out a way to address all three of these with the design and invention of the latrine. And getting your ass off the filthy ground was step one, and onto a granite throne. That was the first improvement. And then they made really the first public bathroom by putting rows of these latrines right next to each other. And it was all positioned on a slight sloping grade with two canals of flowing water. And one canal, some of them, they shared the canal, which as you can see would be problematic, but most of them had two canals. One canal passed right in front of the throne and one underneath it. Now, the one underneath, obviously, was for carrying your waste away from the city and out to a larger body of water. This handled the smell and the disposal. The other canal was for dipping your poop stick into. Yeah. Poop stick. To deal with the hygiene issue, pre-toilet paper, wiping was done with a stick, at least in Roman times, ancient Roman times, a stick with a natural sea sponge at the end of it. Sometimes they would dip it in vinegar, but usually they would dip the sponge into the clean stream, dab your filth away, and just leave the stick and sponge behind for the next user.
That's kind.
Got a splinter, dude.
I have to say, I would want a designated poop stick. I'm not going to lie. I would probably just carry one around like
like on a
fucking
chain.
Linus Blanket. No sharesies. I don't care if I never set that thing down for the rest of my life. I'm not sharing a poop stick. Now, these seats had no dividing walls again, so it looked more like a row of theater chairs made of stone. I mean, they're right next to each other. You could easily be, especially if a heavy set guy was sitting next to you, easily be touching ass cheeks.
Oh, no.
That's how close these things were. But even, theater chairs have dividing arms on them. This is just butt-to-butt biz. Male and female, by the way. There really wasn't any shame involved with this in Roman times. It was just a matter of being civilized. You got to remember, this was the age of enlightenment, and we were becoming better and more civilized beings. So we practiced public ass-to-ass shitting. It's fucking hilarious. All in the name of civilization. But none of this would have been possible before the amazing and key advancements that the Romans were making in aqueduct technology. Even now, some of those major aqueducts that are still standing, they stand as a testament to the brilliance of that early engineering. And so now, where did the waste end up? Now, when they first set these up, the sewer systems, quote unquote, just carried everything out to sea or lakes and streams, depending on where they're at. But they figured out pretty early on that it was not terribly a good idea to pollute the nearby water, so later versions actually included a type of filtration system through smaller and smaller rocks, sort of like early septic systems. It's just like when it comes back up to the surface, it's getting filtered through sort of like river rock, like fist-sized river rock, and then pea-sized gravel, and then fine sand. So by the time that it's coming to the surface, most of that bacteria has sort of been filtered off. It was very clever. I mean, this is 2,000 years ago.
They call them drain fields.
We're still using that in septic fields. I got one out in my yard. Now, this is ultimately why the Romans were thought to be such pioneers in the field of sanitation. In fact, they were so far ahead of their time with this type of thinking that over 1,000 years later, the people of London are still essentially shitting in fields or dirt or in buckets that were manually hauled out every day and buried in the fields.
Where's my bucket?
Where's my... Get me a buck, I'm going to throw up. Now, there was sort of an early outhouse-type system going on in London in some of the castles where you would essentially sit on a toilet lid with a giant 6x6 foot shaft below you, and you would just feel the breeze coming up, and sometimes this would go over the sea or go over the rocks, and it just essentially fell out onto the ground outside the castle.
That'd be horrible.
And
Can you imagine if you're looking for seashells or something, just kind of chilling, having a good day?
Ahoy! Yeah, you'd think there'd be some sort of a 4 for taking a shit over a public beach.
It's 2. Hi, deuce.
It's a good deuce. Also, there were lots of issues with certain things clinging to the walls as they fell, so you can see how that would be nasty. But they eventually created a sort of sanitation crew whose sole job was to come out every single night and clean up where all the shit fell. Just scoop it up and carry it away. But they had to do it in the middle of the night, so no one had to see it. And every night, these poor bastards came and hauled everyone's shit away. Every time we think we have a shit job or we're stuck somewhere in your life, just think about what your life could have been.
No kidding.
Always perspective. Now, they did eventually invent their own type of sewage with canals leading from these indoor outhouses out into the streams and rivers. More on that in a little bit. But skipping ahead a bit to the 17th century, we know that from... It's fascinating how they found this out. They're excavating old toilets from this era, and they were basically seeing... these things were a lot like what was in the castles a couple hundred years back. it's all basically a variant of an outhouse until we get to some true toilet technology. But their situation was they basically had an outhouse that fell into dirt, and the dirt was below the floor level of the house. So they basically dug out a pit, put a toilet seat over it, and you shit in it. And then every week or so, you would top that shit with more soil and ash and charcoal, and that would help filter out the stench. And so you would basically make this lasagna of earth and shit. But it wasn't just the shit, which disintegrates. It was some remnants of what you were eating. And they found all sorts of interesting things by excavating this, including lots of worm eggs, which told them that a lot of their meat had been infested with eggs, and these people lived for generations with parasites. But one of the other things that they found was a specific type of wool. They were able to trace that back to, it looked like this entire colony was using wool to wipe their ass. And it wasn't just any wool, it was dyed wool, and it was dyed with a specific plant that had medicinal purposes, sort of like aloe. And they were using it. They'd figured out that it made their ass feel good. Because you can't imagine it would feel good to wipe your ass with wool. So they threw a little of that magic potion in there. And anyway, it was fascinating to see how they came across all this. I still want to know which direction they wiped. I mean, it was wool. It was the Dark Ages, after all. They were probably back to fronters.
A little dark.
Chris, you would have fit right in.
Yeah.
You got the beard for it, and you got the wiping direction.
Correct.
Oddly enough, the only people that were
Maybe
using...
they were ahead of their time. Maybe they were ahead, and then they got to the front, and then they...
Decided maybe the Romans were onto something. But the only people that were using outhouses during this period were the wealthy. If you owned your house with enough land, I guess, to build a proper outhouse, then you would have to be wealthy. But otherwise, you were in more of a communal situation where you had to share these toilets. And the wealthiest outhouses, though, were just built like bridges over running streams and rivers. And I would imagine that comparatively, this would have to be the maximum in comfort in fine shitting, right? Cool rushing water under your arse.
Oh, my.
Fresh rushing clear air shuffling out the stink. But again, you were literally shitting in your drinking supply, into the water that, you bathe in. And this all led to a crisis in London that's known as the Great Stink. And I'm not making this up. Before we get to the Great Stink, people were already seeing the benefit of your waste being carried away by the water, the immediate response to that. But remember, this is 1,000 years, actually it's 1,500 years at this point, after the Romans had already figured out draining sewage systems. Queen Elizabeth I is thought to be the first recipient of what we call the water closet. It was basically a large box you would fill with fresh water, just like a toilet tank, and below that box was a seat. And below that would be a bucket. So you would do your business into the water reservoir below, flush the contents from the upper reservoir. Very much like the modern toilet setup, except it's all manual. And there was a plunger in that top box that you would have to manipulate to get it to flush. So essentially, if you can imagine using a modern toilet, but instead of flushing it away to some magic land that we never have to think about, every time you were done, you have to lift the lid of the tank, reach down and pull the flapper open, and then haul the bucket away.
Oh no!
So it was some improvement, but it really just wasn't that many steps above shitting in a bucket and taking it out.
When I think about old pooping, I think about kind of like Game of Thrones style, where they just had like a toilet, like a vanity that you would just sit on shit with a bucket underneath and just take the bucket out and dump it.
That's all it was for eons. Yeah. But again, you had to be rich to have that.
Oh, totally.
Otherwise, you were just out shitting in a field somewhere. But it was a start of things to come. And 150 years after that, a watchmaker named Alexander Cummings filed the first ever patent for something resembling a toilet. One key piece of advancement in technology here was a drain that was shaped like an S. And this was to keep a little bit of the water trapped, between the bowl and the receptacle containing the waste. This is interesting because we use something like this technology to this day, and the P trap. Now it's the same principle, but now it's keeping sewer gases out. But the theory was it was also keeping critters that could be crawling up from the sewer into your toilet. This was a real problem before the invention of the P trap or the S pipe. Think about them shits. Not only would you be smelling them stinks, well, first of all, when we actually got to sewage, sewer gas is explosive. So if you've got a bunch of that coming up into your house and you light a match, it could go kaboom.
Sure.
We make that shit. It's fucking crazy that we can make gas that is explosive. Anyway, the mechanism of this early toilet was pretty basic. It's a lot like what you see in RVs, where it's like that. It's kind of like a little lid or a flap at the bottom of the toilet, and then you had a lever that once you filled it up, you just opened up the drain and it went away. It didn't work all that great, but again, it was a step in the right direction. And Joseph Brahma later improved upon Cummings' design by adding a constant trickle of water, recycling to the upper reservoir, and the bowl, which helped keep odor at bay, but also there is this much more complicated mechanism for flushing, and it added force to the water, and it helped pull everything down. So we're inching our way towards a toilet, son. But this was a very popular design, and in fact, it was essentially what was in use for the next 150 years, all the way up to World War II, really. I mean, to some degree, there are other inventions before that. But if you look up a Brahma toilet, you can see that a lot of them were very fancy, and the porcelain had like these elegant flower paintings, and some of them were made from fancy glass. So there was really no lower class version of this. And for eons, toilets were sort of just for the rich. The lower class were still shitting in rivers and streams and on the side of the fucking road, even in modern London. And this is how we get to the Great Stink of 1858. And it was in the midst of the summer in 1858. It just became unbearable to be anywhere in London because of the stench emanating from all the water tributaries, but especially the River Thames, or Thames for you, Chris.
Thank you.
You could smell it from miles and miles outside of the city, apparently. And keep in mind, this was the time of cholera, so it wasn't just odors they had to worry about. This was a very serious illness, among many other serious illnesses that were in our feces. So this led to a very desperate need to figure out a better sewage system. And while the city was working hard on that, inventors started seeing opportunities to create better toilets for personal use.
You said hard on.
Did I say hard on?
You did.
That's good stuff. And all of a sudden, we saw major advancements in the design of the toilet for the first time in, like I said, well over a century. And slowly and surely, it evolved towards something that could be affordable and practical for lower-income households. And it's about this time that a man named Thomas Crapper got involved with toilet production.
Mr. Crapper.
Contrary to popular belief, Crapper did not invent the toilet. In fact, he wasn't an inventor or a manufacturer at all. He was a businessman. And he had money, and he saw an opportunity to invest in toilets.
That's gotta be good.
He's like, I'm tired of throwing money down the... That's the word I'm looking for.
That's the word I'm looking for. Invent something here. Well, I'll be on the me. No? So he hired a bunch of inventors and manufacturers to make better toilets for him, and he just put his name on them. And they were very popular. In fact, his model was what they used in the very first public toilet in London, which was a pay toilet. It sort of looked like any other public restroom, except it was very fancy, marble and that Victorian detail and classical work. It did add privacy stalls, unlike the Romans, but you did have to pay a penny a poop. That's kind of a tongue twister.
Penny a poop.
You have to pay a penny to poop in public. Oddly enough, it remained a penny a poop all the way up into the 1970s, so at least there was no inflation. I think that's charming to put a penny into anything. What costs a penny? Anyway, but this design was still the tank standing about 6 feet above the bowl, and you'd have the pole chain on it, and after a while that design gave way to the one we all know today. But it's essentially the same functionality, and that's how we ended up with the modern toilet. And it's kind of crazy that it took us this long, because Yeah, especially when you look back 2,000 years ago. Now, as to how we were all wiping our ass, we have basically been using anything we could get our hands on. Wool, as I mentioned earlier, also leaves. Hemp was very popular, easy on the arse, apparently. Cloths, once paper was invented, that tended to be the most popular. And a guy named Joseph Guyette Lee is often credited as being the man who actually invented prepackaged toilet paper in 1857. And these were stacked like wrapped packages of napkins. They're all flat. It wasn't until 30 years later when Seth Wheeler creates a patent for the rolled toilet paper as we know it today. And these names, mark and remember these names, my friends. These are heroes. Okay, these researchers.
Hero.
I mean, listen, researchers and historians really believe, like they swear that of all the inventions, of all the medicines, of all the modern technologies, nothing has saved more lives than the invention of the toilet. Because, again, this wasn't just about convenience and odor control. It was about disease and bacteria and spoiling our own food and water supply. It's crazy to think that something so natural and basic could be so deadly and problematic. I mean, we have to shit. We have to piss. We have to figure it out. And it started by figuring out, well, we can't shit in our cave. That's not good. Walk down to your friend's cave and shit there. And then it was, it's not very sociable. Walk down to that tree and, that's too close. Flies and whatnot. So it's just a basic evolution. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lau.
Well, it's 2017, and I think we need our 3 shells.
Yeah, the 3 shells thing never came up in my research. I was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. Well, you figure they'd actually have what do they call those ones in France or whatever, the squirt water up your butt?
The bidets. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think by now it should be affordable. Everybody should have a bidet.
Well, public drinking fountain. Help yourself. I'm sure someone bidets them shits. I am going to do a second show, a follow-up show to this, which is the toilets of the future. And bidets, I'll probably start at bidet and then, travel forward because my research was really getting interesting. I was like, holy shit, there's a whole other show here. But I knew just getting us up to speed would be enough for now. But anyway, I guess that'll do it. Next time you sit on the toilet to take yourself a squeege, point your index finger toward the heavens in honor of all those who got us where we are today. Because you are shitting on the shoulders of giants, my friends.
Drop a deuce for the crapper.
Drop a deuce for Sir Thomas Crapper. It's funny how colloquialisms happen and urban legends and just stories happen that we all swallow. I grew up hearing, first of all, it wasn't Thomas Crapper. The story I heard was a man named John Crapper invented the toilet. That's why we call it going to the John. That's why we take a crap, which, by the way, apparently is not true. There's a completely separate etymology for the word crap. It is likely and almost probable that is why we call it the crapper, though. I mean, it had the name crapper on him, so I refuse to believe that that's not exactly where that came from. But neither of those were true. There was no John Crapper, and Thomas Crapper didn't invent jack shit. Just how to get rid of it. No. Well, let's do some news quiz.
Mm-hmm. Did you get any feedback from your how do I want to word this? I'm trying to think of something clever, and it's really escaping me.
Clearly.
Your kennel group? I don't know.
My kennel group. For what?
For news quiz.
Oh no, no! None of those girls. Well, my phone just died. It's funny. No, I didn't get any. I think Jen didn't do so well. She's not the kennel girl.
High score was 3. Average score was 1.07.
Yeah. Okay.
Tough one. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out.
I tend to do good with these.
Yeah, you do, actually. It's kind of strange. When the audience whiffs, the Ronster miffs.
I just fucking go with it.
The question I asked for a handle was, or name, if you will, was what was the grossest thing you've had in your mouth in the last week? So congratulations to both Balls and your mama for getting 3 points pop.
Oh, nice.
Huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Okay, you guys ready for this?
Yep.
So ready.
Question 1. A 67-year-old woman in the UK scheduled a routine cataract surgery for some eye issues she was having. When surgeons went in to perform the surgery, they were surprised to find that this was the cause of her problems. Was it A, that she had 27 contact lenses collected over 10 years?
Oh,
On her eye.
27 over 10 years. Oh, boy. God, people are so fucking dumb. I'd buy it.
Is it B, that she had a flesh-eating amoeba she contracted after falling into a public fountain?
Ew.
Yeah, I remember the Mythbusters where they were testing drinking fountains, and the fountains themselves, like the faucets, were actually pretty good, and the water coming out of it was good. But the fountains themselves, like the bowl, were loaded with nastiness.
Or is it C, they found gonorrhea that she had contracted after her partner asked to finish their sex like in the adult movies they watched together?
In the eye.
Based.
Okay.
Ronster.
Wow. Yeah. Well, because I know the science of the faucets, the fountains, they're filthy. So that's calling out to me. The gonorrhea thing is interesting. And I'm going to be looking them shits, I believe. But I'm going to go with B.
Why's my eye itching? All right. John Mark.
I think I'll go with A.
Contact lenses.
Yeah.
That's fucking funny.
Dude, I watched something on the lines of somebody like let their contacts in for like 6 months, and it actually their eye grew into the fucking thing.
Yep.
So like when they removed the contact, it actually took layers of skin off their eye. It was fucking disturbing.
Yeah.
I should wear glasses, and I thought about getting contacts, but I don't like putting shit in my eyes, so I'll probably never get contacts for that reason.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with B. I'm gonna go with the water fountain, the amoeba.
I could see it being easy to forget that you got them in, but it seems to me like if you put another one on top of it, wouldn't that be like putting two pairs of glasses
Sure.
together
You would throw
and
it off,
completely
right?
change the prescription?
Question 2.
So maybe that's a idiotic answer there, Chris, or
Spoiler.
we're all idiots.
Oh,
I love that answer though.
Question deuce. A riot at this is not the UK story, by the way. A riot at a UK prison broke out recently after inmates were told they would no longer be able to do this. Is it A, watch reality television?
God, they should be fucking dancing.
How am I
Praising
supposed to live
Jesus
if I
for them
can't
shits.
keep up with my Kardashians? Rah!
Watching that shit all day long would be like a type of torture. But
Stockholm syndrome.
if you're in prison, yeah, you're fucking prison.
Is it B, smoke cigarettes?
those motherfuckers.
It's funny. I just started watching Oz for the very first time. Never seen a single episode. Just started watching it. And I'm like 2 or 3 episodes into it, and they just banned cigarettes.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
it's like, oh my God, that would be horrible. What else are you going to do except take years off your life and smoke in prison? But,
Right?
Is it C, get a serving of dessert with every dinner?
Oh, took away the dessert.
yeah. Okay.
Or is it D,
Oh, shit. All of
play
the above.
poker during recreation time? Riot.
Yeah.
At a riot. Ronster.
I got to go with B. The tobacco.
Cigarette.
Yeah, I mean, that's a full-on addictive drug. Mood altering. You take them shits away, I'd be fucking rioting if I was still hooked on cigs. Yeah, that'd be awful.
Sure. All right. John Mark.
Something about the dessert ban is calling out to me.
Okay.
Where's my fucking bloody cobbler?
The closest thing to prison I could think of was high school, and I missed it by a year. We had a smoking section there at Eastmont where you could smoke cigarettes.
Right before we went there, they took it away.
And they took it away.
But you know, we were still allowed to cross the street and smoke.
True.
I think it was a class or two after we were there where they took that away. They closed the campus, but we could just cross the street and smoke, and they would leave us alone.
And that was years ago. That was like 20-something years ago when I was cool.
90,
So
92,
I could
93.
think, I'm going to go with the cigarettes for sure, but I would think that like people are assholes enough to, say, yeah, you can't do that. Eh.
All right. Question 3. Guess what, guys? Florida Daily Dubs.
Ooh, it's
Ding,
been
ding,
a
ding,
while.
ding, 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 ding.
Wow, we got a double shot on that one.
I feel like my first one was weak.
All right. Per usual, this is worth 2 points if you get it correct. A man in Florida received not 1, but 2 red light camera infractions this year, but insists he couldn't have been the driver that ran the red lights because this is from one of the cameras.
Yeah.
Is it A, he is blind and has never operated a vehicle? Is it B,
How could it be his
because
fault?
he is 6 years old? Is it C, because he is currently serving life in prison for killing a cop?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it D, because that when he drives high on PCP, no one can actually see him because he becomes invisible?
Damn right.
Ooh, that's good.
Florida. Yeah,
Florida, baby.
fucking Florida. So a man has received 2 red light camera infractions and claims he cannot be the driver because this.
I'm sorry, remind me B.
He is 6 years old.
I'm going to go with D.
You're going with when he's high on PCP. That's impossible. They can't see me when I'm high on PCP.
I own a business downtown now, and even though it's just downtown Wenatchee, I have been dealing with more homeless and druggies than I ever thought I would, and that straight up sounds like something a druggie would say.
Fair. All right, John Mark.
Man, I'm going with that one too. I mean, it could be that he's in prison, but I don't know. I'm going with the PCP, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the prison one because I think D's made up. It's too good to be true.
It's probably a coastal herring.
It
I
may
want it to be true.
Could be a
So
coastal herring. Oh, what is it? A flamingo? It's got to be a red flamingo.
The 6-year-old driver, I don't know.
It's a red flamingo. It's too good.
Red flamingo.
All right. This is probably my favorite question of the month, maybe. Question 4. A 70-year-old man was stabbed by the prostitute he had hired after they did the deed, and the man failed to pay her. Now, the payment in question that they had mutually agreed upon was this, and he failed to give her this. Was it A, the keys to his 1983 Datsun pickup truck and a new steering wheel cover?
Datsun.
Ooh, Datsun.
Datsun.
Ran.
Give me
You
my
listening,
Datsun.
Ran?
Let me buy you a poop stick, Ron. Mine's missing.
Where's your poop stick, Ran? We're business partners, Ran.
Oh my god. Oh, please God. Okay. The keys to his Datsun pickup truck and a new steering wheel cover was A. Is it B, $2 in quarters and some edible panties?
Yeah.
Practical.
But they're like a fruit roll.
And delicious.
Is it C, a gift card to Red Lobster and a back rub?
Never understood edible panties, by the way. I mean, I get it. I just don't understand them.
Right.
You had to go right back to the last one.
I don't combine my sex and my food. I just don't. I'm sorry. See one more time?
A gift card to Red Lobster and a back rub.
A gift card to Red Lobster is the single greatest euphemism I've ever heard in my entire life.
Or is it D, 3 hours of him babysitting her kids and some Otter Pops?
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow, this is tricky.
It's supposed to be agreed upon.
I'm starting to see why the scores were so low. Shit is making my head spin. Oh, God. I got to go with edible panties.
Okay.
Sticking
Come on.
out.
Was
No,
this in
wait.
Florida
I'm
also?
sorry, wait. I got to change it. I got to go with Red Lobster. That's my favorite.
The Red Lobster, okay. I didn't specify where it was, and I couldn't tell you.
Of course you didn't.
Of course you didn't, Chris. Why would you?
Oh, God. Something about the $2 in quarters. If this was Florida, I'd say $2 in quarters.
That's offensive.
Yeah, I feel like
Keys to his
Man.
truck, gift card, Red Lobster, or 3 hours of him sitting their kids and some Otter Pops.
Let's do the babysitting and the lobster pops, the Otter Pops.
Lobster pops.
I can't deliver lobster pops. They're not real.
I saw lobster pops open for the Cramps back in '88.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Lau.
I'm going to go with lobster pops too.
Oh, Red Lobster. Oh, wait, no. Are you going with the Otter Pops or Red Lobster?
Otter Pops.
I'm going with the babysitting and the Otter Pops.
Otter Pops. All right, let's go with the answer. See how you guys did.
Boy,
here.
this D answer really
throws a
makes your
monkey
head
wrench in there.
spin. Yeah.
I had to do it, guys.
Gotcha.
Things were getting too easy for you to
No,
just.
I got you. Will it japped. Wow, is that offensive? What did we do after Hiroshima and Nagasaki? We had japped it.
Oh my God.
God. Now it's offensive.
Come on.
I thought I was the only one who got hit in the head the other week.
But if you will stuff about the kennel, I demand that the picture of this week's podcast be a toilet inside of a kennel.
A toilet? No. Oh, yeah. Wait, say that again?
Photoshop a toilet inside of a kennel.
If you leave the kennel story, I demand that the picture for this week's podcast be a toilet inside of a kennel.
All right, that's fair. I'll do it, and I am leaving it in. It was last year.
All right.
I'm not ashamed.
Word. Let's see. So, question one: a 67-year-old woman in the UK scheduled a routine cataract surgery. They went in to take a look, and they found out she had 27 fucking contact lenses. Over 10 years. She said they were disposable, and she put them in sometimes, just couldn't find them. So she
See, this is as soon as I started making fun of Chris for thinking up such a fucking idiotic answer, I thought, wait a minute, Chris is smarter than you. Immediately, when you put the, I was like, why didn't I register that just a little bit sooner?
I'm going to soul swap you, Ron, real quick. I'm soul swapping you. I'm like, can you imagine? No, but I mean, think about the thickness of those contacts.
Would your eyelids be sticking out a little? I mean, they're thin, but that's like 30.
Even if they weren't stacked up on top of each other, just to have 27 of those spread all around your eyeball and your eye socket.
I don't feel right.
You're like a fucking walker from the fucking Game of Thrones because your eyes are like just white.
I'm trying to find the picture.
How
Here we
fucking
go.
unself-aware can a human being be? I'm aware when I've got like a cat hair sticking on my shoulder. I'm like, oh God, am I having a stroke? Oh no, it's just a tiny hair sitting on me. How could you be so unaware of your senses and your body?
Well, the thing is, it sounds like she was aware that they were missing. She was just like, "Oh, can't find one. I guess we'll put another one in." It's like, no, it's in there. Go to the doctor.
I've heard so many stories, like
go
personal,
to the doctor, please.
Personal stories.
Here's a screenshot
of girls that have forgotten that they had a tampon up, usually because they were drunk, and they thought they took it out, or they put another one in, and they just shoved another one up. And then they had to nose that one out later. I've heard that story a couple of times. So, God, and that's up in you, and a big thing.
My God, look at that thing.
Okay, what do we got?
It's crazy, huh?
Fucking zombie.
You got it right, Lau?
What? Okay, come on.
Yeah, Doc. That's what they fucking.
This
removed.
looks like an artisan glass bowl. Spun by Dale Chalui?
You had so much shit stacked on your eye. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to shut your eyes.
Holy fuck!
Your eyelids.
Is this human normal?
I don't
on some sort of spectrum?
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Okay. John Mark got that correct for a point. Boom.
Attaboy.
Question 2. A riot at a UK prison broke out recently after inmates were told they could no longer smoke the cickies.
Damn
right. Nice, yeah.
And Lyle got that correct for a
Wait,
point.
John Mark got the contact one right?
Yeah.
Huh. I'll be
Okay.
danged. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense with the cigarettes. Can they smoke? They couldn't possibly still be able to smoke in prisons in the U.S., right?
No,
You can't smoke anywhere now. Yeah, it's crazy.
Question 3. Our Florida Daily Dubs.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right. You maxed on that
Nailing
one.
it.
A man in Florida received not one, but 2 red light camera infractions this year, but insists he couldn't have been the driver that ran the red lights because he is currently serving life in prison for murdering a cop.
Son of a bitch.
So was he
Lyle got that
actually?
What is pulling in the lead?
I don't understand.
That puts Lyle up in Threeville.
That's a great excuse.
Oh,
he's really in prison.
Oh, yeah, that's a daily double. Shit, son, we're in trouble.
The guy's really in prison. It was not him, but he keeps getting these fucking red light infractions.
Oh, I see. So,
yeah. All right. Lastly, question 4 here. A 70-year-old man was stabbed by a prostitute he hired after he failed to pay her. The agreed-upon fee for her services was $2.25 and some edible panties, which is correct. But that makes Lyle our motherfucking
the daily
winner
double
tonight.
killed me.
It, buddy.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Congrats.
Like a mother.
Well, I did better than the average, right?
Ding, 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 ding.
About 1, so the average was 1.2 something or other.
2.
So no.
I got the cigarette one right.
No.
And the panties one.
No, you didn't get the pantyhose one right. You changed your mind.
Oh, that's right. I went with the one. I went with the lobster one.
Yeah.
Should have went with my gut, son. Well, congrats, Lyle. Yeah, edible panties. What? Are you guys into the whole food sex thing?
Not at all.
No.
Like even licking syrup off a titty. I don't.
Syrup, maybe?
Two different parts of my brain that I just can't combine. It's like it'd be like eating a sandwich on the toilet. No offense, ladies.
Oh my God! Wait a second. Yeah.
Was it
the full
cheese sandwich?
I don't want to know where that came from, but yeah, I don't. Two great tastes that taste great separately, I suppose. It's the unreaches. Don't want to give. Anyway, what about you, Lau? You sound like you might like a little food play.
No, I have before. There's nothing wrong with it.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just not. I'm so far away from it.
He just doesn't want to eat fruit leather out of somebody's crotch, is what he's saying.
Now that's offensive.
Yeah, that's
I didn't know
We could put up a fruit leather down there. No. God, this might be the most revealing of all.
I've tried the edible panty things, and it's not what it's all about. You know.
What could they? Yeah. Is it fruit leather?
It's basically kind of like that, fruit roll-ish.
Like licorice?
Yeah, well, no, it's like a fruit roll-ish. That's at the time the one I had. Anyway. But like whipped cream and like a little sensuous cherry thing, on a hot date, with your.
I think it's cute in pinups, like a little whipped cream and cherry here and about. I think it can be cute in the right spot. But in practice,
that to be every time.
Bodily fluids, sweat, or skin taste, it just doesn't pair well with my food. Go ahead.
They should. The same company that does the Bernie's bot should do a line of edible underwear. Like, you make it
whipped cream in the
tequila.
Earwax and jizz. Do not want.
Sex life not as spicy as she used to be. So
burrito butthole. There's so many things. We're humans. We're fragile, and we have functions. As we just spent the bulk of the show talking about, we have issues that we need to address, and some of it's not entirely clean. Now, I am not a germaphobe when it comes to sex at all. Surprisingly, sometimes I'm surprising myself, like mid-act. I'm like, I'm surprised this isn't grossing me the fuck out. But because I am a germaphobe, but I'm just, nothing turns me off. I just don't want my food down there or anywhere around. What are you doing? You hear my dog back there?
Get back in that kennel.
Show's not over, bitch. Anyway, before we get out of here, I do want to do a little Hollywood Gets Probed tribute because we had two fallen greats back to back, same day actually. One was George Romero, which for fuck's sake, is there anybody that defined a genre more than George fucking Romero? I mean, I was thinking about it. I guess you can kind of look at maybe Sergio Leone's where he redefined like the spaghetti western, the western in general. It turned it from like the singing cowboy and the guy in the white hat always being the good guy to you don't really know who's good here. Like they're all bastards and it's fun, it's dirty and it's sweaty and it's bloody. That's when I fell in love with the westerns. Think about what zombie movies were around.
No,
they were like white.
He invented it, right?
But they were he invented what we know them as. But think of White Zombie with like Bela Lugosi from the 40s or 30s. Very different thing. And it was all based in like voodoo and, you know, blow a powder on somebody, bury them, and they come back and they're sort of a tormented soul. But they're not eating your brains.
Right.
Night of the Living Dead was the template for every zombie film that came after that to some degree, all the way up to The Walking Dead. And there are variations, you know. There's like The Return of the Living Dead where it's all about the brains. And Night of the Living Dead, they just eat you. Like they rip out your guts and eat you. So, I mean, the dude created so much, and but zombie movies became ridiculous, and then they got good again, and then even the ridiculous ones I thought were fun, but then they got smart and clever, and then we ended up with The Walking Dead, and they sort of started to become a different thing, but they were always based on Romero zombies. But that initial Night of the Living Dead, if you haven't seen them shits in a long time, folks, sit down and watch it. Now, you can dial this up anywhere because it's in the public domain, but do yourself a favor and get a good, clean copy of it because it's in the public domain, like a lot of those earlier movies, you can't appreciate it unless you're seeing one of the cleaned up, restored prints. And you really get how well made this fucking low budget little masterpiece was. And in the 60s, your main protagonist is an African American. The other strong people around there were female. This was huge in the 60s. And the ending of that movie, which I won't mention in case you haven't seen it, because a lot of people haven't. It's crazy. It's like not seeing the original Psycho. You have to see them shits. But the ending of that movie is so fucking fitting and poignant and simple, and then just credits. It's a brilliant fucking movie, and it's a loss. But the dude smoked his whole life, and he died of lung cancer. So I've never seen an interview with the dude where he wasn't smoking. I'm assuming it's attached to that. There are lung cancers that aren't attached to smoking, but
yeah, I mean,
R.I.P.
figure though.
George Romero. The other one was Martin Landau. Now, Martin Landau, to me, boils down to one movie, and that is Ed Wood, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, I love Martin Landau whenever I've seen him in anything. He's an amazing actor. But his portrayal as Bela Lugosi in Ed Wood was so fucking cartoonish and brilliant and over-the-top filthy, which Bela Lugosi wasn't. Like, everyone that knew him said that's the one thing that Martin Landau... I don't know if it was Martin Landau's choice or Tim Burton's choice to make him filthy. Like, hey, throw me that fucking whiskey. Let's shoot this fucker. It was such a charming character, but his portrayal as, you know, an aging Bela Lugosi who's no longer getting the work that he once did, so he has to do cheap little commercials. He's a heroin addict, so he's doing these little titty films with Ed Wood and their friendship. It's a brilliant, beautiful, amazing fucking film. And Johnny Depp is perfect as Ed Wood, but to me, that film is Tim Burton at his best, it's Johnny Depp at his best, and it's Martin Landau at its best. So another film that a lot of people haven't seen, considering it's a Tim Burton, Johnny Depp film. And another 2 or 3 hour one. It's like 2.5 hours, I think. It's pretty long. But God, watch that movie if you haven't seen that one. 2 black and white films.
I need to watch that again because that was back in the day. I saw it when it first came out. You know, and I think
1993 or 94. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect soundtrack by Howard Shore on the theremin. It was a rare soundtrack without Danny Elfman. That was when Tim Burton and Danny Elfman were feuding. So Howard Shore stepped in and did the soundtrack, and from the opening credits, you're just in. It's all that cheesy old theremin sci-fi. Lightning. It's all black and white. A cheesy little model of Hollywood with the paper plate flying saucers over the Hollywood Hills. Oh my God! If you don't know anything about Ed Wood, you will want to know more about him after seeing that movie. But anywho, that's all I wanted to throw out there.
I just remember Martin Landau from Space 1999 because I remember seeing that when I was a kid, and like when I was a kid watching that, it I don't know, there's something about Space 1999 that was like more freaky to me than Star Trek was. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
And I couldn't put my finger on it really, but it just seemed darker somehow. But going back and I've been watching Space 1999 for the last few months, just like when I'm trying to fall asleep or whatever, you know.
Interesting.
And has not aged as well as Star Trek the original series. Let me just say that. But there's like something about it. There's something about it that I just like. It's a weird nostalgia, you know. Like,
sure.
It's just like.
It's like the old Black Hole. I felt that way about that too. The Black Hole series, and when I went back and watched those, it was like, wow, this is a totally different vibe. That shit creeped my ass out when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's a pretty creepy movie.
I love that little robot. It's a Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, good design. Great fucking set design. Just to cheat. If it had a bigger budget, you know, you could tell that they're trying to do Star Wars on more of a Star Trek original series budget. But some good stuff in there. Anywho, anything you guys want to throw on before we get on out of here?
Winter is here, bitch.
Is it back on?
Oh my! What? I'm fucking.
Yeah, it's back on. Last night was the premiere.
Well, listen. I've been busy for a while, but when I started my own business, I became business busy.
Busier.
And it. But you know, I saw someone's post led me to believe that it was on, but then I was scrolling through and was like, I don't see anyone talking about it. So I wasn't sure. I knew it was coming up, but yeah.
Well, good. I hope nobody does talk about it, because I'll probably wait till they're all out and then watch them.
Oh,
you know?
you can't do that.
Ooh, that's dangerous with Game of Thrones, especially post-book, son.
Yeah.
Post-book, son, you can't do them shit.
Yeah, I know.
You know what? Trubs.
I'm trying to do that with Twin Peaks. No one is spoiling Twin Peaks for me. I don't think anyone's watching it that I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know people watching it, but they're not spoiling it, so I'm just going to be like,
crazy.
you know, whatever.
I don't think anyone knows what the fuck's going on from what I heard. I can't wait to dig into that. I'm about to do that. But Game of Thrones, yeah, I'll probably watch that tonight. But I am, after tonight, I think I'm going to start on episode 1 and for the first time ever watch everything back to back to back all over again, because I've only seen everything once, but it was all in real time. I watched the very first episode of Game of Thrones in real time. I'll never forget that night. It was a week I got sick. I was like, oh yeah, everyone's talking about this new show that just debuted, and you know, HBO would play the rerun throughout that week. And I sat there and watched, and I was like, oh shit, I'm into this.
Wait, whoa. I'm just putting shit together here. Am I the only motherfucker currently like keeping up with Game of Thrones in this group? Because
no, I'm current.
Oh,
well, I think we're all current except for the new season.
Haven't watched. I just haven't watched last night's episode.
But you are gonna wait. You're gonna wait for the whole thing to be there before you watch. So I'm gonna be the one that's like bursting with, you will not believe what happened. I can't fucking talk to you guys about it. Bullshit.
Maybe.
No, I'm not waiting. I'm gonna watch the new episode 1 tonight. No, what I'm saying is, I'm going to keep up on the new ones as they come out, because I don't want that shit getting spoiled. But along the way, I'm starting at episode 1. Season 1.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm actually watching on Netflix, so I got to wait till it comes out, and I'm a season behind. So. Which sucks, but whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, Chris and I will be up to speed. But yeah, you're ahead of the game so far.
Wow. Okay.
And how about that new Stranger Things poster?
Oh,
cool.
I can't wait.
Pretty exciting. That's another one that I want to start. But first, I got to get through Oz. It's a
good, isn't it?
Brilliant fucking show. Immediately.
You know what the European name for that show was, though?
What's that?
It was Who Gets Butt Fucked Today? Because it is all about some dude getting forcefully fucked in the butt every episode.
I think it's great because it.
You're like, what's the kennel coming to?
First of all, you get to masturbate, and secondly,
well, they're already in a kennel, Chris.
Yeah.
It's a good way to scare someone straight. A play on words, I guess. Well, we're on at BourneFilms.com, TalesFromTheSpacepod.com. Don't forget, we do have Bob Gimlin from world-famous Patterson-Gimlin Film coming to the radar station August 4th, Friday, August 4th, and that's going to be a 4 to 9 event, but you're going to want to be there right at 4 p.m. because this is going to be a huge thing, probably standing room only. It's free, so it's just first come, first serve as far as room in the the bar area to sit down and watch him on world-famous ray gun stage. Paul Graves is going to be there. We're both going to be on stage interviewing Bob, and Paul's going to do some music, some Bigfoot tunes in between, and we have the Bigfoot art show, and Rhea and I are working on Bigfoot themed snacks It's going to be a good time. It is going to be a huge fucking event. So do not miss out on that if you can possibly get here. Friday, August 4th. Other than that, tune in next week. We'll be talking about 9/11, and I think we'll have Aislinn on. We talked about doing it this week, but it didn't work out. So next week, we'll probably have Aislinn on. So send us your Ask Aislinn questions, and I'm going to put a little something to spice it up there. Yeah, something to encourage this. I'm going to throw in a free art print of mine to the first 3 people that send in an Ask Aislinn question. We've been getting some. Some of them are repeats, though, of questions that they didn't know we'd already sort of addressed in the past. And some of them are all right. I just want to have more to choose from. And so send those to Ron at boronfilms.com, BORONfilms.com, or just Facebook us on our Tales from the Spacepod Facebook page. And I'm also going to put a little thing out for our Patreon page. We need more Patreon supporters. You guys have been coming and going, and God bless you for giving even a nickel toward this project, honestly. But we could really use a little more funds to keep this going, especially because we're trying to branch out into new things. And it really is nice to have a little bit of a nest egg in there. We kind of forget about it, and then all of a sudden when we want to do something to further the podcast, or we need to catch up on bills, we need to renew the website, pay for bandwidth, it's so awesome to have that money there. And it keeps us going, honestly. After 8 years and 300 episodes, patreon.com/Tales from the Spacepod. Now, I'm going to say the next 3 people that sign up for a $10 a month or more pledge, I'm going to throw in
kennel training.
Kennel training.
I'll throw in 1 free kennel training, and or a Tales from the Spacepod cassette tape, greatest hits. These things are flying off the shelf. Or 3 art prints from yours truly, and I will send you a link of art prints that you can choose from. There are about 30 of them. Robots, pinup girls, all sorts of cool shit in there. There's got to be something that'll appeal to you. 3 art prints or a cassette tape of the Tales from the Spacepod greatest hits for the next 3 people that sign up at $10 or more.
And remember, that gets you into news quiz too.
That also gets you into news quiz, because $5 or more will get you playing news quiz. So yeah, that's another thing that you'll be able to participate in. We love having our lifelines to go by. I almost asked for one tonight just so I could answer the opposite of what the crowd went with, but I might start using it like that if they're going to keep stink bombing. It's tough, though. You never know. We all go through phases, just like we on the show. Ron at boronfilms.com, talesfromthespacepod.com, patreon.com/Tales from the Spacepod. If you love the show, do support us. It means the world to us, and it helps ensure that we will keep this train a-rolling. Until next week, God bless y'all and us. You know, it's funny that we used to try. I remember I was digging in recently to do another greatest hits type thing, and for the first 30, 40 episodes, we kept entertaining sign-offs. We would do it like a couple of weeks. Really, the only sign-off we've stuck to is tune in next week, 9/11. That's not really a sign-off, but maybe eventually, or not. We'll see you next week. 9/11.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
See ya.
Are you free to say you actually did these things? You didn't just entertain the idea?
I locked a girl up.